Welcome to Nasdaq Trade Talks. I'm Jill Malandrino, global markets reporter at Nasdaq. There's been a lot of interest in the cannabis Canadian markets, especially with the United States starting to hint federal legalization. Canadian recreational cannabis has now been available for over 2 years, and the market is still finding the right balance. Joining me this afternoon is Shah, managing director with Cannabis Benchmarks, to discuss further. It's great to see you again. Welcome back to Trade Talks.
Great. Thank you, Jill, for having me again.
And today we wanted to spend some time talking about the Canadian cannabis supply based on the latest data available from Statistics Canada. Tell us a little bit more about that.
Sure. So Statistics Canada reports unpackaged production data every month. It's usually on a 3 to 4 month lag basis. Currently, the data that's available is for October 2020. They show 220,000 kilograms of dry cannabis coming to market during that month. Now, just to put that number into perspective, it's about 50% higher than the year prior. And to further kind of see how that connects with the demand in the industry, we calculate average demand per month being about 30,000 kilograms per month. So there's a very big disconnect between the supply in the market and the demand in the market. That October number is slightly misleading in the sense that we do have a lot more outdoor grown cannabis in Canada this year, or sorry, in 2020. As of May 2020, we saw a rapid increase in licenses issued to cultivators looking to grow outdoors. And so just like other typical commodities, like the soy, the wheat, and corns in the US or in the Midwest US, we're seeing a big bump in production in that Q3 timeframe, in that September and October timeframe, when those products typically are harvested. And so there's a large kind of jump from what we saw average last summer in terms of production to October, but we do expect that to be kind of the typical cycle now in cannabis going forward in Canada as more outdoor grown cannabis does come to market. And the reason being that we do see a lot of outdoor grown cannabis right now is that there's a big cost advantage to it. The indoor production is usually of higher grade and it can be grown throughout the year, but the outdoor cannabis, it's a lot lower in terms of the cost to bring it to market. And hence we're seeing a transition of a lot of the cannabis cultivation to the outdoor markets.
So with the cannabis market oversupplied, are you seeing cultivators exiting the market?
Yeah, we've had a lot of announcements in 2020 with the larger cultivators shifting their business practices. They're seeing that same data that we're seeing, where there's a large disconnect between supply and demand, and that excess supply goes into federal and provincial inventory. And that's a huge issue. Right now, we have about 36 months worth of supply sitting in inventory based on current demand estimates. And so there's two ways to get rid of that product. It's either to sell it at a discount or write it off your balance sheet and just take it out of the market. And that product does degrade over time, so it can't sit there forever. And so hence we are seeing a lot of operators understand that, and they're shifting their business to either closing down some of their facilities to kind of get the market into rebalance. That being said, when we look at some of the Health Canada data in terms of like the cultivation licenses being issued, that's been on a rapid increase still. There's currently 340 standard cultivation licenses issued in Canada, and now we see a big batch of micro cultivation licenses being issued. And currently there's 173 cultivation licenses out there. And the micro cultivation licenses are more comparable to craft beer brewing. Usually smaller batches of a unique type of strain that is of higher price and higher quality.
And to wrap up here, is the increased supply leading to safer products and lower prices overall?
Yeah, one of the positives that's coming out of the lower prices is a lot of consumers are turning away from their traditional sources, which were the illicit markets, to the safer, regulated, legal markets. Some of the data points that we see out there that help validate that is, the first one comes from the Ontario Cannabis Store. They publish a report every quarter giving a lot of detail about their operations, their online operations. And one of the big data points that we drilled into was the sale price of legal cannabis versus the illegal cannabis in Ontario. And starting in Q1 2020, so last year about this time, they saw the legal cannabis prices drop below legal cannabis prices. So that's a big plus for the industry as consumers start shifting their purchasing habits to the legal channels, and that's something that's probably what the cannabis industry has been looking for since inception. Another good data point that we just recently published on was Statistics Canada published data on household expenditure data for Q3 2020. And in there, they break out cannabis sales by legal and illegal channels. And this is the first quarter in Q3 2020 where they show that there's more dollars spent to purchase cannabis via the legal channels versus the illegal channels. So once again, another positive point for the industry, and in our mind, all things are suggesting that the industry is kind of moving in the right direction.
All right, Het, appreciate the insight. Thanks for joining us on Trade Talks, and thanks for joining me. I'm Jill Malandrino, Global Markets Reporter at Nasdaq.